We're a bootstrapped SMS marketing company exclusively for Shopify merchants. We actually got made an example out of way back in the day, many years ago. We had some fake reviews and we had pushed the envelope a little bit too hard and ultimately got banned off of the Shopify App Store. So that was a pivotal moment for the company. We're like, a few months into this, like we're finally coming into something good, and then boom, we get like hit with a ban hammer and obviously like, freaking out. Well, my 9 to 5 was really a 7 to 7 because you had to be on the job site by 7. We lived over an hour away, so I was leaving my house at 6, and then I'd work until about 5, and then the commute back home with traffic from New York City was 2 hours, so I wouldn't get back home until about 6:37, have dinner, and I was still living with my parents at the time, so I had an office set up down in the basement, so I'd go down there 7 o'clock or so, and yeah, from like 7 to 10 or 7 to 11, I'd work because my founders are on the West Coast, so they were 3 hours behind. So we lots of late night calls, lots of late night work, and then go to bed and wake up and do it all again.
Hey, what's up, guys? Tameem here. I'm here with Kyle from TxtCart, and this is part 2 of a 10-part series where I interview different Shopify app founders on how they scaled past $1 million per ARR, how they scaled, what struggles they went through, and everything. So this video is going to be full of gold nuggets. And yeah, this episode is brought to you by Canada's fastest internet provider, Bell. I'm only saying that because Kyle and I were experiencing major technical difficulties a little before this interview, but we're good now. So Kyle, please take it from here. Just introduce yourself really quickly, and then we'll dive right into the questions.
Yeah, appreciate the intro. Kyle Bigley, founder and CEO of TxtCart. We're a bootstrapped SMS marketing company exclusively for Shopify merchants, kind of playing in the 1 to 5 million revenue space. And we've been primarily focused on the cart and checkout recovery component, as well as conversational campaigns for about the last 5 years now. And we have some really cool stuff in the pipeline. We were one of the first ones really to start the AI initiative with the conversational SMS with an open source AI agent, and are now in a really exciting spot with the company where we are basically building out 20 plus additional automations and revamping our AI agent. So you guys should see some pretty cool announcements coming here at the end of Q2. But yeah, super excited to join Tameem and kick off the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all great. So let's just get started right into the questions. And by the way, for context, when I met, I think like it was like last year around November 2024 or 2020. Yeah, 2024. Yeah, he just followed me. I reached out, and then we actually started working together. And yeah, we've been working together ever since.
Goat of SEO.
Appreciate you. I'm going to soundbite that. All right, but anyway, let's just dive into the questions. So Kyle, number one, what caused the spark? What pain or gap did you see in the Shopify ecosystem? Or maybe it was like just a moment you had yourself at work or something where you were just like, you know what, I need to change, or there's a gap here I need to fill. And what triggered this saga?
I went to college for finance and econ, thought I was going to go into investment banking, but truthfully was never that passionate about it. Always knew I wanted to start and run my own company, but didn't really know what that looked like. Just knew that I wasn't kind of cut out for the traditional 9 to 5 corporate America route. So my earliest days of e-commerce started in college with dropshipping nonetheless. So I think I was like 18, 19 years old, and it just spoke to me, the ability to work, anywhere in the world, remotely, sell things online, products, direct consumer is really cool. So that was my very first sort of inclination. I had launched 2 stores. The first one was a total failure. The second one, I had some minor success for, a typical college kid. I think I had scaled it to like 30, 40,000 a month in sales, but basically hit a wall, decided to sell that company. And in that sort of learnings, just realized that the constant battle for new customer acquisition wasn't exactly what I wanted to deal with long term. I wanted something that was a little bit more sustainable, repeatable, with recurring revenue. So I was already in the Shopify space. So I looked to the Shopify App Store. The idea of building out an app was pretty cool. My roommate at the time was a developer, so we were always kind of shooting the shit late at night, just talking about potential ideas. And back then, the App Store was very different than it is now. There was less than 3,000 apps, I think, when we first got started. And back then, SMS was super new. It was kind of like not even really being used. There was only a handful of SMS companies out there. Everyone was talking about email as all the rave, but I didn't really didn't really feel the same. And from my experiences as a seller, right, with the SMS options that were out there, I was just never really wowed by them. I thought that they could be better. And I've always had that kind of mindset of, if I kind of put my head to something, I believe I can do it better. And that's really what kicked it off. I just saw the opportunity through my own trials and tribulations of being in the D2C space and drop shipping, and ultimately use that as fuel to start, what TxtCart is today.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like dropshipping is like that gateway side hustle to online money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the weed of
It's a
like,
gateway drug for sure.
because no, I started dropshipping too. Funnily enough, I was dropshipping like massage guns, but that didn't go well. And then I tried another dropshipping store, which was called Snowmonk, which was like Canadian winter stuff. But that didn't go well either. The only reason both times it didn't go well was not because of the store or the copywriting or anything like that. I just didn't have the funds to run ads.
Yeah,
Because
definitely
ads are expensive as
definitely a
fuck,
prerequisite for sure.
for
But
sure.
there's a lot of reasons that things can go wrong. But yeah, that's definitely, funding is always an issue.
One. I feel like, like slight tangent here. I feel like when you're starting out and you have no money, which is like probably most people, and
Mm.
you just have like time, a service-based business is probably just like better suited for you unless you have thousands of dollars of cash lying around, or maybe hundreds, to experiment with ads and then sort of scale from there.
100% agree.
Yeah. Next question. So walk me through how you got your first 100 paying users.
So backing up even a little bit further, I want to say it was like maybe 25 that I probably just directly messaged on social media and found in Facebook groups. So we maybe found like 25, 30 like early interested parties and kind of beta users. And we had launched that in October of 2019 with those folks. Some bigger brands actually too. I remember one of our earliest customers was the Mead brothers over at CrossNet. And so it wasn't even just like small drop shippers. We had some bigger brands with us at the time, and we had used that information to kind of iterate on the product, build out some new features, and then launch in mid-December of 2019. And we went straight away to the App Store because at the time some of our competitors were kind of private. They didn't do the App Store, so we sell it as a distribution channel for us to leverage. We did not get back in the day. They had like a featured section at the bottom of the homepage for like new and noteworthy. And it's funny because I had a buddy that was launching apps at the same time as me, and it was like every app that he had put out, he was featured in new and noteworthy. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get us featured there. And it was important because if you got a feature on the homepage, that would end up trafficking, the sort of trending traffic to the app, and that would be responsible for hundreds of installs. So it was a lot of direct kind of one-to-one DMs and outreach via Facebook groups. We probably played around with a few like Facebook ad campaigns because again, I came from that marketing and dropshipping background, so that was sort of a tool in my arsenal that a lot of app devs didn't have. But pretty shortly after we launched, we think we did like a partnership with someone for some like social posts, and that ended up catching some traction, and then that ended up kind of kicking us off into a trending spot on the App Store. And then several months after we'd launched, we were actually picked by Shopify employees for staff picks, which I don't even think they do that anymore. Maybe it's called like in the spotlight. But back in the day, they would pick 3 apps to be shown on the front homepage of the App Store for about like 2 weeks. And that was huge. If you can get that feature, it would, change your business overnight. So that definitely generated us hundreds of installs, within the first week. So that definitely helped. But yeah, it was a combination of things. I don't think there's just one answer, but that's kind of like the early stages of when we had first launched.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm starting to see like a pattern here too. Like I was talking to Sean last week and with Ilya,
Yeah.
it's a similar here where you start grinding with cold outreach, you get your first 2 dozen customers, you build a really good product, makes people want to talk about it, and then you sort of lean on that word of mouth to get to your next growth stage, and then that has its own snowball effect, and then you just keep going from there.
100%. The word of mouth is a huge unlock. It's a flywheel, and if you can build a great product and not only fulfill on what you market, but also have a great customer support team, people will talk. People are going to talk regardless. People love to talk bad about things they don't like, but people will talk positively if you treat them right and have a great product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been one of TxtCart, and I'm sure it's been a part of pretty much every successful SaaS company. When people talk about it, naturally people want to follow what other people that they know are doing that works. So if you can get people to talk about it in a positive light, that is a huge. Even to this day, it's like our third biggest lever for new customer acquisition behind like Meta ads and some other areas that we deal with for distribution. But yeah, word of mouth is definitely key.
Okay, fair enough. And how many users do you guys have right now?
We are, I think, just over 3,000 when I last checked.
Okay, cool. So going from around 100 users from cold outreach and word of mouth and getting featured. Going from 100 users to 3,000 users, what would you say your most effective channel was? Was it meta ads?
Yeah, for us, it was definitely meta ads. Being on the App Store is definitely a big one because there are some apps that they elect not to be for other reasons. For us, we've always, in the early days, we focused on the things that we could control. We focused a lot on the organic from the App Store. So we were pretty obsessed with the quality of our app listing, the keywords that we were kind of going after, and our ranking. And for anyone that's in the Shopify space, they know how important the reviews play in that ranking as well. So not only the quality of the reviews, but the velocity that you get them has an impact. So from day one, it was, hyper focusing on quality of the app listing and providing great support so that we could get reviews to then drive that kind of flywheel to have us rank for our keywords because there's traffic already on the App Store, right? So why not leverage it? And to this day, I think we rank like number 3 for SMS and number 2 or 3 for SMS marketing. It kind of fluctuates back and forth, but there's hundreds and hundreds. There's like 500 plus apps that are ranking for SMS, and we're top 3, top 5 pretty much all the time. And it's not because we have the most funding, right? Might not even be because we have the best product. It's just because we kind of understand the Shopify app ecosystem and how to rank for it. And in doing so, it's quite powerful. But that's going to only take you so far. You're also going to have sort of reliance on platforms, which could be quite risky. So building out other distributions channels, whether that is cold outreach for some people, which we have not seen a lot of success with, whether that's having a sales motion for go-to-market, sponsoring events. There's so many different ways. But for us, from my background, meta ads has always been super effective. If you can put together some good creative videos, images, and find something that Facebook likes, you can throw quite a bit of spend behind it. And over time, that will really compound. I mean, we have some creative on Meta that have been running so it was running for a couple of years. In 2019, we started that creative, and it got to the point where it was so old that people were kind of like talking about the fact that the video was still from 2019. So I
Yeah.
literally refilmed the video
Mm.
like down to the same exact script with a new person in the video and less than a year ago,
Yeah.
and that same video refilmed is still crushing. So once you have a good creative, you can iterate on it for sure. But we're able to see pretty similar cost per acquisition on Meta that we were seeing on the App Store, which is huge because the volume that you can get and that you can achieve through Meta is, I think, so much more than what you can get on the App Store.
You gotta share that creative with me one time.
Yeah,
That was doing so well.
giving away the sauce.
Yeah. You were mentioning like how reviews were, very crucial in the beginning to really get your listing up there on Shopify. Do you have any tips on how growing Shopify app founders can farm reviews?
Yeah, I mean, I've done.
You said velocity and quality, so and if
Yeah, I
any
mean,
tips on how to influence both as well, if you have any.
again, policies always change. I mean, people were grandfathered in even before we had kind of launched in our early stages, and there was a huge problem back in the day with fake reviews and kind of incentivized reviews. Shopify's pretty strict on that, and essentially it comes down to a couple of things, right? I personally believe that you should be shooting for like a 4.8 4.7 star rating, right? 4.9, 5.0, typically red flags, right? People are a little skeptical, could be faked. It's typically not the case where an app or a company is perfect. There's usually some sort of issues or frustrated customers or people that are kind of just, after you for negative reviews. So it's okay to be at a 4.7 or 4.8. I've seen conversion rates increase when we went down to a 4.7 and 4.8 versus being at a 4.9 or 5.0, if you can believe that. So that's kind of the first aspect of like how I view it. And then the other component is just be customer obsessed and really focus on building out your support team, right? For a long time, I was the guy running our support, and I was like through 50K a month, right? And like, as a founder, you wear a lot of different hats, but I do believe whoever is handling the marketing and the business side of it should have a key role and should be providing the support to your customers for a variety of reasons. You're going to learn about the customer's pain points. You're going to be able to get the reviews. You're going to be able to train someone when you're ready to hire them. There's a whole myriad of reasons why you should be doing that. But I did it for a long time. And then in doing so, I started to outsource. I hired a support agent. Wasn't the best that we could hire at the time, but it was enough so that I didn't have to spend the time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for about another year, and then I said, it's time to really take this to the next level. And that's when we really looked to hire the best talent. We looked to kind of purge folks from other companies that were in the space, right? So that we weren't necessarily having to train them. Now we have a full team of 4 agents, and it's been the biggest lever that we've pulled recently in terms of just unlocking that next level for the company and also for my free time. They're great at what they do. They've been instrumental in providing better customer experiences and better support. We're seeing reviews flow in at velocities that we haven't seen before. And it's because our team actually cares about the customer and is properly aligned on how to provide really good support, but also do it in such a way that we can quote unquote farm reviews on Shopify in a way that is allowed by Shopify. Because again, they are pretty strict. And I do have, I've A/B tested a lot of things. I've tried different approaches. I do know what works. So yeah, happy to share that offline as well. But yeah, it's definitely a crucial part, in any business. It's one of the main reasons I started TxtCart, right? Because a lot of businesses customer support, let's be honest, sucks. And I think it's one of the easiest ways that you can guarantee yourself and your company to win is just by genuinely caring about the customer and providing really good support, because that alone will drive people to talk because they're just not used to it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And on that note, like, yeah, it seems like your team, your customer support is definitely a huge retention factor for a lot of your customers. Walk me through, like, how did you understand when to hire? You said you were doing customer support for like 50K a month. A common problem a lot of founders have, they try to scale too fast.
Mhm.
Whereas it seems like you decided that, well, I'm going to stay in the trenches. I'm going to
Yeah.
really perfect everything, build a strong foundation, and then have people take care of that foundation.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with scaling too fast. Obviously, I hit the point earlier that we are bootstrapped, and I would say that while being a quick and sort of nimble startup has its advantages, we've never been like the fastest company, right? I mean, we didn't touch on it earlier, but we built TxtCart for years being part-time employees, basically, right? Like we all had full-time jobs outside of this. This was sort of like a side project for a long time, honestly. It wasn't until even kind of recently that we have full-time employees, and I'm full-time on it. So that was the first thing, just going at our own pace, right? We're self-funded by the customers. So there's only so much runway that we do have, obviously trying to balance out profitability and reinvestment and everything else that comes along with the struggles of bootstrapping. But yeah, it just comes down to, I mean, I don't know if there's one blanket answer. It might be unique to each individual company, but for me, it was about getting some of my time back and hiring somebody that could kind of almost train me, right? I didn't want to be the one that was training them. I wanted to hire someone that already knew what to do. And it was actually an inflection point when I was doing the interviews, because, again, I'm pretty hands-on. I interviewed all of the people that we were considering hiring, and I believe founders should be doing that, because one of the big mistakes I see a lot of founders making is outsourcing too much too quickly. I think you lose control, you lose sight of the business, and it takes away from the things that you should be doing. But one of the sort of inflection points was I had, I think, 2 or 3 candidates, and 2 of the candidates were like really good at the live chat support type thing. And then one of them wasn't as good at that, but he was more of a manager background. And I'll be honest, I was like leaning towards the 2 people that were really good at the live chat and not really leaning towards the manager thing. And I'm so glad I didn't, because by bringing on someone with that managerial experience, he's been instrumental in changing our whole CSM team, right? He's now basically replaced me, right? He's writing scopes of work and standard operating procedures. He's in Confluence. He's training people. He's helping out with interviews, right? He's getting reviews, like kind of, it's a tough kind of transition to make, but finding and hiring a manager type person first to then build out that team, like whoever you're going to hire for whatever that team is, needs to be someone that has that sort of managerial experience, and ideally from a competitor or a similar company, because now it's not you training them, they're training you, and they're going to be able to kind of take over that team, and you'll have confidence in their ability.
So hire someone smarter than you, more experienced than you. And was this
In that
particular
realm, for
hire?
sure.
Yeah. Was this particular hire from, was he poached from a competitor, or did
He
you?
wasn't poached from a direct competitor. He had worked for a couple of different companies in a similar space, but nothing that is a direct competitor. But that's definitely a shortcut too. If you have, if the opportunity presents itself and you have the ability to hire those individuals from competitors, I'm a big proponent for that, because again, they bring a wealth of knowledge and experience, and they'll definitely be able to, transform your company and also teach you things from their previous lessons at the competitor or the other company. So yeah, in this particular instance, it wasn't from one of our direct competitors. It just, he happened to have software customer support sort of experience, and has led teams much larger than where we are at. So I felt pretty confident in my decision to hire him.
That's fair. Do you have any tips, or where did you hire your customer support? Because I mean, clearly customer support is a very, very crucial part of a lot of companies, especially SaaS companies. So, I mean, if you had to give some tips for the founders on where to hire, where to find this talent, how to vet the talent, what would you?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of different options. Obviously, everyone's heard of, the Fivers and the Upworks. I personally wouldn't, go those directions, especially, for contractor type relationships, unless you're just starting out. If you're just starting out, those platforms are usually fine. You'll find some talent that you can afford there that'll get you by. But there's some better platforms out there. Two of the platforms that I use, one's a personal friend, Jai from the Starters. He's got some really good vetted talent that is North American based. And then I actually kind of stumbled upon the platform that I've been using recently called Test Gorilla. And basically, this is a sort of an Upwork style platform where you can basically post job listings and descriptions and requirements. People will kind of come to you inbound. But the cool part about Test Gorilla is that they have sort of standardized testing built into it, right? So if you're looking for a CSM rep for a SaaS company, they have actual tests and sort of requirements that have to be met for that specific role. And it's not just for that role. Obviously, you can select the role you're hiring for. So for us, we did, like simulations of what it is to be a CSM rep for a SaaS company. We did like literacy tests. We did words per minute typing tests because apparently this was news to me until a couple of months ago. There's a high correlation for CSM reps that have a ability to type at 50 words per minute or higher versus not. So it was one of those things that we had put in, and I kind of followed that guidelines from some friends of mine. But yeah, Test Grill has been really good. We found some really good talent from there. It's sort of a hidden gem. I don't think a lot of people know about it. So I've definitely got some talent from there. But anytime you can hire talent, like I said, either from a competitor or the best talent I've always believed comes from referrals, right? So you have people on your team, they've worked with other people, right? Or maybe you have some relationships with other companies from the past. For us, we actually had some relationships with like the team over at Push Owl, right? They were acquired a couple of years ago, but we ended up taking a lot of their early employees and partners. We ended up bringing on over to TxtCart because of the relationship that I have with that team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's been really good for us. So yeah, referrals are always great. There's some platforms out there that are pretty good. That would be my advice.
Okay. That's fair. And when you're talking about like pricing, how did you approach your pricing strategy? Was it kind of like looking at competitors, basing it off that, or was it more mathematical?
Pricing is definitely more of an art than a science. I think we changed our pricing 4 or 5 times in the first year. Obviously, you look at competitors, kind of see what they're doing and iterate on that. My strategy whenever I launch a new company has always been to kind of take a look at the competitive landscape, see where you think you fit in, and then see if you can undercut the pricing by at least 20-25%.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the best long-term strategy, but to get your foot in the door, it could definitely help. And then what you're basically doing is you're kind of guaranteeing 20 or 25% growth in a year or two from now, whenever you decide to raise prices. Because the quickest way to grow a company, obviously, is to raise your prices on the existing customers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've kind of come into it at a 20% discount, you'll be able to acquire some new customers earlier on than otherwise possible. And then in a year from now, when you decide to raise, you're only raising to like the previous market standard. The odds are your competitors have already raised prices again. So you're still the cheaper option and you'll have 20 or 25% growth. And that's a good strategy for starting out. For us, we've, obviously had to evolve over the years and just kind of see how things work with our customers, take feedback from customers. But our pricing is unique. We are performance based on the sort of automation side of things. So we've removed a lot of the risk for merchants and drop shippers because, aside from the free trial and the free, credits that we give and our sort of 10x ROI guarantee, it removes a lot of the risk because if you aren't recovering anything with our platform, you're not paying, right? You only pay a percentage if we generate you sales. So we've covered all the SMS costs. We've basically reassigned that risk to us, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And then the SMS side of things for campaigns is a little bit more cut and dry. It's a very typical pricing that you would see at any platform. There's a base rate that you pay on a multiplier of your segments for your subscribers. And, we will generate the cost of sending that campaign out, right? SMS, unlike a lot of SaaS companies and unlike email, there's real costs associated with it. It's a little bit more expensive. Just due to the infrastructure, the carrier fees, and the network. But yeah, it's how we've thought about pricing in the early days, and it's where we're at now.
That's fair. So I feel like every founder has one of these, a lucky break, right? What would you say your lucky break was where you don't really credit hard work or perseverance, but it was like purely by chance that you happened to fall in this position, and then you obviously took the opportunity.
We actually got made an example out of way back in the day, many, many years ago. We had some fake reviews, and we had pushed the envelope a little bit too hard and ultimately got banned off of the Shopify App Store. So that was a pivotal moment for the company. We're like, a few months into this, like we're finally coming into something good, and then boom, we get like hit with the ban hammer, and obviously like, freaking out. And ultimately, reached out to the Shopify team. They definitely made an example out of us, but they did kind of give us a little bit of a gracious, courtesy, allowing us to essentially resubmit the app under a new name. And we had to basically go through the entire review process again, and basically started from zero. So we had like 75 legit reviews and like 20 fake reviews. And like we lost all of that traction, and we had to resubmit everything, go through the whole wait process again. We had like hundreds of customers on the original app, right? They were still being serviced, but you couldn't download it anymore from the App Store. So that was definitely like a pivotal moment for the company, and a bit of a lucky break, because Shopify could have easily just like told us to pound salt, and that would have been the end of it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of lessons in that one. Not something I'm super proud of, but a transformational point of the company, and a bit lucky nonetheless. But yeah, when you're in business for 5 years, there's definitely luck involved, but I'm a big proponent as well as kind of just making your own luck, right? Setting yourself up for positions where and when that opportunity presents itself, being kind of smart enough to recognize it and jump on it. So
Kyle, I just have like one last question that you can leave everyone with, and that is, if you had to give like one piece of advice to the people that are watching, what piece of advice would you give to them?
I would encourage you, if you have an idea for a company, whether it's, drop shipping, whether it's, direct consumer, CPG, SaaS, I would definitely encourage anyone listening or watching to take the risk, right? If you are in a corporate job, I understand it can definitely be challenging. I have a similar situation where I walked away from a very rewarding career and high paying job, and a lot of people call it the golden handcuffs. But I do believe if you kind of take the right steps and kind of pace yourself, right? Everyone online kind of pushes how fast you need to move for everything. But at the end of the day, understand you do have time. If you can map everything out properly and kind of get product market fit, it's worth it to take the risk. It's more fulfilling than anything you could ever imagine. And I would, just recommend that if you are going to do it, just make sure you are 110% certain that this is what you want to do, because it is not for the faint of heart. There is going to be days where you're getting kicked in the nuts, and there's going to be days that are experiencing crazy highs. But the most important thing is just to not give up, not quit. And just realize, when things are kind of looking really poor, there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
I feel like an important thing to remember with that inspiring little speech is that while it's very important to take that risk, you want to take a calculated one.
100%.
I know it's a very common dialogue to be like, oh, I'm gonna drop out, or school's useless, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like me, and as you heard, like Kyle, we had another thing going on first, and there was like something already putting food on our plate, and then we decided to finally pursue it after we saw some traction, whether it's me with the agency and leaving school,
Yeah.
whether it's Kyle leaving his 9 to 5. Like, he didn't leave and then like, now what? I'm gonna build TxtCart. It was like he was building TxtCart for over a couple of years, and that is to say, like right now as you're sitting, the decision isn't do I quit and do I start something else. The decision is like, what should I do alongside this?
Yeah. Do I start is the first question, and then start with whatever you're doing currently, because I agree, like people kind of shit on having a backup plan or a plan B, but the truth is, like, if everything went to shit, I could go back to my 9 to 5 career. All right, I have a degree in finance and economics, so like there are backup plans, but you should just make the decision to start, build it, sort of in tangent to whatever it is you're doing, right? There's no way around it. You're gonna have long hours. You're gonna be putting in a lot of work. I remember, coming home from work at 7 o'clock at night and going down to the basement and building TxtCart until 10, 11, 12 in the morning. It's going to be a lot of work. But you do that for 12, 24, 36 months, and you'll never have to worry about work again, if that makes sense.
So you did that, because I was going to ask next, like really quickly, you basically, did the 9 to 5 and then the 5 to 10 or 5 to 11.
Yeah. Well, my 9 to 5 was really a 7 to 7, because you had to be on the job site by 7. We lived over an hour away, so I was leaving my house at 6, and then I'd work until about 5. And then the commute back home with traffic from New York City was 2 hours. So I wouldn't get back home until about 6:37. have dinner. And, I was still living with my parents at the time. So I had an office set up down in the basement. So I'd go down there 7 o'clock or so. And yeah, from like 7 to 10 or 7 to 11, I'd work because my founders are on the West Coast. So they were 3 hours behind. So lots of late night calls, lots of late night work, and then go to bed and wake up and do it all again. And that was my life for, for several years. And a lot of people just aren't willing to put in that level of commitment and work because it's draining, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Not only is it draining, but you have to make sacrifices, right? I let my health go. I wasn't able to go to the gym, right? You lose out on friendships. Like there's a lot that goes into it that isn't as sexy as people like to make it out to be, but it's what's required.
Yeah. 100%. Like there's no like middle ground there. Like you have to make that sacrifice. You have to take that leap. I feel like some people think that they can have it both ways, but definitely not.
No, rarely is that the case.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Kyle, where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. I think my new handles on Twitter and Instagram are SMS Poppy. Shout out for TxtCart, and then just Kyle Bigley on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Kyle, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Until next time. Cheers.